Hello, anyone out there? Is anyone there at all that's listening to poor little old me? Hi everybody, just waiting for people to join. Hi Jane, well, you caught me early today, well done. Wasn't going to do, hi Liz and hi Jane again. Wasn't going to do a live tonight, I was just trying to find something to watch on TV and couldn't really find anything that I wanted to. Plus, also, I got some new information about the Anunnaki, which I thought I'd share with people. I mean, it's not going to change your life, and you're not going to end up being a millionaire from it. But it means a lot to me, so I thought I'd share it with you guys because it's kind of important in our history. If anyone's interested in knowing that, I will waffle on about that when there's more people joined. So I hope everyone's okay. I don't normally ask if everyone's okay, do I? Kind of selfish, aren't I? I sort of just waffle on, but hope everyone's okay. There you go. See, I've said it. So I only have to say it once a year just to make sure everyone's okay. So yeah, what can I talk about to start with? I'm not going to talk about the main thing yet. So obviously the Baltic Sea UFO, which you've probably seen the videos of. I mean, it's been around for a while anyway, but the latest video that I've done also talks about the shape of it being the same as the UFOs that came when NASA lost its tether. It was a 12-mile tether in space, and they've got camera footage of it, and these things just suddenly appeared, and they were round, and they had a big chunk taken out of it, very similar to that Baltic UFO that's in the Baltic Sea. And then I point out that the Oumuamua craft, and it is a craft. I mean, if you just look now, literally every science institute agrees that it's more than likely a craft because it slowed down and then sped up and changed angle, which doesn't normally happen with a meteorite. And the fact it's also elongated, it was like a cigar shape, this Oumuamua, which I think is a Hawaiian name for it. The fact that it's that shape is unnatural, and the length of it, I can't remember how long it is, but it's coming up to nearly a mile long, if I remember correctly. So with all of those, and the fact that that's made out of rock, which was hollowed out. Now, I'd heard stories years and years ago, of an abductee being with a particular race of greys. I can't remember which race it was, forgive me. And they they were taken to various different places and over planets and stuff. And at one point they saw craft literally crushing up meteorites and making their own planet. So that's one story of talking about rocks. But another story is someone else had seen them cut into a planet using laser beams and sucking out a huge lump of rock in a cigar shape. This is back before even the Oumuamua came into view. So hearing about a cigar-shaped rock being used as a craft back then in the 80s, I thought that was a cool idea, because obviously everything that we look at, we assume that we have to have it packaged nice and little labels and, you know, nuts and bolts and everything else. But aliens don't care about it. They've passed all of that. They're not interested in whether you've got a little Apple logo on it or not. They do things for the functionality, which is why the Roswell stone, if anyone knows of the Roswell stone, I totally believe is a correct device, which has got a magnetic force on the top where the raised images, which just so happens to be a same image as a crop circle that it was formed here in the UK, and the stone was found in Roswell, New Mexico, by someone that was just walking around, and he saw a really shiny stone, so he picked it up. But on the other side of it, which is why it probably got missed, was this raised, not sunken in, which makes it even harder to cut, raised image of this crop circle, which is identical to one that came, I think, was a few years prior to that in the UK. So they don't, you know, so the Roswell stone is basically a, dare I say, a hard drive is to know. Sorry, Goats is trying to ask to join. Recognise your name. Sorry, I don't mind. It's because I'm. And I've got some person that I really don't recognise the name of. It's. I tried to do a live with someone that had no idea, and I'll crash. So forgive me if I don't accept people's invites in. Only regulars, yeah, because I know that they know, they'll ask questions. But this person that I had the other day, literally just going, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Paranormal stuff." He goes, "What do you mean And it just went on. It was a car crash. Anyway, let's back to the questions. And hi, Art has said hi. Hi all. Hi Art. There's no questions, so I can waffle on. Luckily, no one's interested to ask questions, which is fine. So yeah, going back to the Roswell Stone. So magnetic. We used to have magnetic tapes and things. So magnets can store information. So that's not a miracle thing. So to store the information of our solar system, which I believe is what it is, which is why it had the crop circle on there of I think it was a circle and then a sort of crescent moon, which would symbolify at least our possible planet and moon, possibly. Liam's wrote, "Hello, mate. Love your lives." Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that's nice of you to say. Thank you. Where was I? Yeah, so it's basically they use it on the Roswell Stone, which is only the size of half the size of a mobile phone, and they use that on a table device which they move around. And it basically, as you move the object around, it brings up whatever it is you need to do. So in other words, so instead of having a mouse and us clicking, they actually move the hard drive to where it needs to go, which is quite clever, I guess. But yeah, that was what the Roswell Stone was. And again, going back to the packaging side of it, they didn't need to put a little brand, and they didn't need to make it out of plastic and everything else. And I still get asked to this day, why did the ancients build stuff out of stone, and why did they ride it on stone? Because I mean, I don't know about other people, but I've looked into a whole list of what gets destroyed quickest, and bone and stone are the two that pretty much don't disintegrate. User 22 wrote, talk about an update. Are the Kensington Guidestones gone? Do you mean the Georgia Guidestones? And if that's what you're referring to, yes. Which is interesting because it was a crime scene, technically, when these people or person went in and set some sort of rocket, when I say rocket, an explosion off by the stones themselves. So instead of cordoning it off and doing some examinations and anything else about the tire marks and stuff, because we've actually got camera footage of the actual guy jumping out of a car, running to the one of the stones, and then putting something down and then running away, and then a minute or so, however long later, this explosion happened. So it's actually a crime scene. So which makes it interesting, the fact that literally the first thing they do, the government or police, is bulldoze the whole lot down. Not even, let's have a look and see, or what kind of explosive they used, or anything like that. It was literally just tear it down. And I think the government have wanted that tore down for a very long time, which makes me then think, well, maybe it was a setup deliberately to get that thing pulled down, because obviously it talks about things that's happening at the moment, which is not good for the normal people like me and you. Jay Buttons wrote, "Experienced a ghost at a broken down church on my YouTube channel." So I'd love to ask, can you describe, was it a ghost as in an orb, or was it a human type figure? I'd be really interested to know. TikTok wrote, "You believe in ghosts and spirits?" Yes, I did a Ouija board with my mum a long time ago, and my dad came through, and I asked questions in my head. My mum didn't even hear the questions, and it went to the answers. And at that point, I knew my mum's not that good to guess what I was, even thinking. So, yeah, basically that sealed it for me. Before that, I didn't really want to know. I was a bit, the idea of people watching you in your front room and everything, just kind of didn't want to know it. I kind of blocked that out. But unfortunately, yeah, they're a real phenomenon. Baz has wrote, "You really sound like the guy from Shaun of the Dead." Nick Frost, you're possibly saying. I do get called that a lot. It's a shame I don't get called Chris Hemsworth or something like that. Yeah, Nick Frost. I am Thor. But no, I I also get told I sound like Ricky Gervais, which is also not Brad Pitt. So I'll take Nick Frost. I suppose I'll have to go with that. Edwin's wrote, could we be sea monkeys in someone's petri dish? It's an interesting question. Go number one in the class for that. It's an interesting question because I actually kind of slightly agree with that. I think that we are an experiment, not necessarily in a petri dish, but similar to what CERN does. So CERN is trying to create, the God particle, which is what created the Big Bang in the first place. So if they recreate that, even on a small scale, that would then be another universe. And even though it's small to us, obviously anything inside that microscopic universe would be, a universe. And there's stories of ancient stories of where the universe actually came from another race that actually was doing, whether it was an experiment or they knew what they was doing, but either way. And these stories go back from natives in Peru, I think it is, and they've got doorways which supposedly the creators, which is interesting because the Anunnaki call the creators of everything, or creator of everything, instead of them calling it him, her, it, they call it the creator of everything, which is interesting. Now, Zachariah Sitchin names it as Yahweh, but I'm on the fence on that. I can't see that myself. And the problem is that there's so many names bantered around for different Anunnaki, so many different names. I mean, I haven't even touched on half of them. And I was reading some new stuff today, which is why I got some excellent information I want to share with you guys in a second. New information that I didn't only found out about today to do with the Anunnaki. So it's really exciting news, which is why I thought I'd do this live. But yeah, so I do kind of think, because if you have the Big Bang, then that, with the way that I'm talking about, in other words, a Hadron Collider type CERN machine, then that fulfills all three of your criteria for the Big Bang. At the moment, what was before the Big Bang, I have no idea. Was there a God or creator of everything? No, don't know. And is it expanding? It is expanding, but we don't know why. Whereas, I mean, you could say, well, it's expanded because obviously it started from the Big Bang. But whereas, if you have an alien race like us creating accidentally a Big Bang using the same type of machines that CERN does, then we've got the creator of everything. Yes, that's the people at CERN. Wow, so we've now got a creator of everything. We now have something that was before the Big Bang, in other words, two particles that they were bashing around together. And obviously, would it be expanding because it came from a singularity outwards, so it could be expanding. So, yeah, not such a silly idea in my opinion. Michael's right. I think it's CERN you saw, other dimensions. I struggle with the other dimensions, and I believe there is other dimensions, but until we actually have proof of a second dimension, there's so many people bantering around, oh, aliens come from another dimension. But, instead of planets, we have planets. We know there's planets. But instead of them saying, well, and these things zip around. So instead of saying, yeah, they come from another planet, they say, no, they come from a different dimension, which we've got no proof of whatsoever, but we do have proof of a planet. I don't know why people do that. Jay Buttons wrote, we saw a white figure. Oh, okay, interesting. And because when I spoke to, or when I heard, I didn't ask the question, but I did hear about a clairvoyant saying to someone that spirits don't generally like graveyards simply because there's nothing going on there, and that's the last place they want to be. So, unless they're sort of stuck to their body, spirits can generally move around. So it's interesting that you see them. But bearing in mind, I mean, if you say how many thousands of billions of people have died in the past, you might come across them somewhere. Node has wrote Judgment Day Jesus, and then Node wrote Judgment Day Jesus, repent or perish. See, yeah, I have a problem with that. Forgive me. And the reason for that is if the lovely people that sat and wrote about, now there's stories between 30 years and 90 years, and I've even heard 200 years after Jesus was when that book was written about Jesus. So if those lovely people didn't bother, if they just thought, you know what, this is getting a bit too much, let's not bother, then Jesus wouldn't, in our eyes, wouldn't have existed at all. Do you see what I mean? So there's no divinity that we've got other than people writing about him, if that makes sense. I know it's a horrible way to look at it, but just imagine those people just thought, no, I can't be bothered to write. That would be it. You wouldn't be talking about it. You're only talking about it because these people bothered writing about it. Whereas at least with Sumerians, we've got pyramids and temples and ziggurats and things like that, and stone tablets and carvings of them, etc., etc. And yet Jesus, who was here just a couple of thousand years ago, compared to the Anunnaki, we've got nothing. I mean, we've got speculation. Possibly he was buried at Taupiat tomb. But it's all speculation. So I'm not saying he wasn't a real person. I'm just saying, thank God, thank the Anunnaki that the people bothered writing that book. Otherwise, you would not be writing what you just wrote. You would be going by the Anunnaki's texts about various different things. So I find that interesting. Node has wrote, prepare to meet thy God almost 4 dash colon or whatever it is, 12. Again, the problem is you obviously have no idea that the book is actually, the Bible's talking about the Anunnaki. It really is. In fact, here's the time I'm just about to tell you something else. So today, you lucky people, I was doing some more research, as I always do. And a couple of people, my regulars, have asked me a couple of questions. One was, how long did the first lot of humans live for? In other words, the ones in Africa. So so this is nothing to do with Sitchin. This is translated by people that has no affinity with Zecharia Sitchin, and they actually believe that the translations that they translated were talking about myths. Even though in one of the translations it says, for some reason, there doesn't say, this is what their sort of notes, for some reason there doesn't seem to be any humans around over in Eridu, which was the first place that was set up in Mesopotamia, well, it's just off Mesopotamia, but Eridu, which is now near the Euphrates River. So their notes, this is a person that has no knowledge of aliens, were actually, when you read everything that they wrote, translated, it basically says Enki, well, it did actually at one point say Enki created the first humans, which is weird for them not to turn around and say, because they're still talking, they're talking about as if it's a god, and yet at the same time they're also talking about it's Enlil, which is another god, and how Enlil and Enki being the wiser one, and and it just how they can just sit there and read and translate all of that without sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, it's a bit weird, isn't it? How Enki. Anyway, going back to the age of the first humans that Enki did create, as verified by other people that's translated these tablets, the answer is they had a long lifespan. I didn't know that because I'd heard, people say, oh, the Anunnaki changed humans to have a lesser lifespan. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense because they wanted them to mine in the gold. And the last thing they want is someone to die, within 30 years or so. Because that means they're going to have to replace that person. Turns out the ones over in Africa had a longer lifespan. Also, now, I didn't know this, but this actual translation, again, nothing to do with Zachariah Sitchin, so you're hearing it here first. This other translation, because I was unsure whether it was... See, Zachariah Sitchin said 7, and I was unsure whether it was 7 humans, e.g. the first one, and then 6 others. I was unsure whether it was the first one and... a female and 5 others. I was unsure on how it played out. Turns out, and this is nothing to do with the Sitchin, turns out that the person that translated the tablet that I'm talking about actually said there was 7 males and 7 females that were created. So, I mean, that just blew my mind because I thought, okay, that's brilliant. So not only that, we've now got their longevity. Now, also, they went through various different tablets and translated many different tablets, these people that was translating them. And they also said that after the flood, Enlil created... This is brilliant because I've said it all along, that Enlil... or Enki was creating the people that they wanted using ME, such as musicians, builders, priests, oracles, and so on and so on. This person who translated this other tablet literally said, after the flood, because of because of the amount of breeding that the Africans did, and there were so many people that was causing noise, which is in one of the other tablets, the Atrahasis, I think it is, that when they were repopulating after, in other words, after the flood, they decided to create the people with a lesser life span and to do the jobs and not random people. I mean, that just blew my mind. So literally, as what Sitchin says, but we now know that they created the Homo sapiens sapiens, the ones after the flood, with a lesser lifespan than the ones that was in Africa. How amazing is that? Literally, that was a few of the pieces that I was stuck on, and it's fascinating. So I'll be doing a full video on that to go through that. But yeah, I found that fascinating. Sorry, somehow it just scrolled all the way to the bottom, so I'm just scrolling back. Rusty's wrote, "Sir, is that a gift, or are you studying from what school?" Me, if I studied from a school, I wouldn't know nothing. Or anything, should I say. And the reason for that is because the schools will not allow you to learn. There's excellent professors that's been kicked out when they've realised what's going on. So we should be thankful that there's people out there that don't research in schools, because they won't, we learn more outside of a school than we do in. And that's because, long story, to do with Rockefellers and things like that. But, so yeah, I just basically been studying for the last 40 odd years, every single day, as you probably can tell. But again, feel free to research yourself. Everything else is just my own research. Never thought anyone would be interested, so I always have to throw that out there. Earth Dweller has wrote Amen is also a god. Well, I mean, the Bible has 1,000 different names for one God. So, which really, let's be honest, is probably 1,000 different names for 1,000 different Anunnakis. Pink has wrote, isn't that something to do with the Nazca lines also? I'm trying to think what I was talking about then. I was talking about the stones, the Ica crop circles. Not sure what that's referring to. No one really knows what the Nazca lines is. That's the one that I put my hands up and say I haven't even got a clue. We know the top of a mountain has been cut off, 3 miles long. Normal people didn't do that. It's obviously cut off for a reason. It's obviously got lines. There's other lines that they don't normally show you on TV. I think David Childress, one of the researchers, actually went up in a plane. As long as a few other researchers. I think Linda's probably been up as well, Linda Moulton Howe, and they can see so much more that you don't normally see on TV. They always seem to cut. Apparently, there's all sorts of lines going on. Robert Johansson's wrote, hello, hi Robert, nice of you to join. Fakers joined. Fakers wrote, shake your old tail feathers. Roberts wrote, are we talking about mud floods here? No, wasn't talking about that. The mud floods, in my opinion, I know my regulars are going to hate me for this, but I'll be really quick, so don't worry, regulars, it was the Tatarian Empire, which is what people say the mud floods flooded over this empire that we've now all lost memory of and blah, blah, blah. Only 200 years ago, up to 200 years ago, which is kind of crazy. And all the books that was written about the Tatarian Empire were flooded and buried, and we can never find them. And but no, the Tatarian Empire was a Mongolian empire 500 years ago. Someone off the internet nabbed the name, took pictures of buildings that's cut into rock, and I get very angry. My regulars know, very angry when I see pictures that the mud flood numpties show that I know were cut into rock, and they say, "Oh look, this has been flooded over by mud." And so that's as far as I go with that, because I just don't like people coming up with stuff off the internet and people believing it. It really winds me up. I just hope people do their own research, but it doesn't look like it. They seem to follow people on the internet instead of, like I do. I go back to the original text. I don't follow people on the internet because they have their own opinions, and I'll rather go back to the original. Vikings wrote God squat spamming. I guess you're referring to Node person earlier. Foxes wrote, do you subscribe to the Coast to Coast Radio? I did. Thank you very much for asking. I did. I was a Coast Insider until about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. And because I'm from the UK, they cut it off and said, sorry, we can't, nothing to do with me personally. We can't do something now outside of America or something like that. And so I emailed them, of course, never got a reply. And I was gutted because, I was a Coast to Coast Insider. I loved it. I've been in. I was just. I've been interviewed by not George Norrie, but one of the others. I'm only being cagey because obviously you could probably find the episode and then you'll get my name. So but yeah, no. Back in 2016, Richard Serrett interviewed me. Bazers wrote, I don't believe the universe can just stop. There must be more universe that goes beyond the edge. Well, that's why I had thought years ago, and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth also say the same, that the universe was created by a thought. Because technically a thought doesn't end. You could have a road in your head and it could just keep going and going and going. There's no... Everything that we perceive has a top, middle, bottom, and 2 sides. Everything, right down to the smallest dot, micro atom. Everything's got a top two sides and a bottom. It has. I know people will try and get their head around it. I said this to a woman once. I said everything's got a top, two sides, and a bottom, and she goes, "What about a shoelace when it's tied up?" Okay, I wasn't actually referring to string, but the point, you know what the point is. It's because our brain can't comprehend anything other than top, two sides, and a bottom. So to have a universe that doesn't have a top, two sides, and a bottom is, messes with our head, because we are born to believe top and two sides. Thanos. Everybody, quick, call the Avengers. Thanos has wrote, something saved my life twice, like literally from extreme circumstances, which would probably be, I'll be interested to know what it is, but the chances are, obviously it's not God, because otherwise God would have saved all those poor people in World War II, and they didn't. He didn't. It didn't. It's more than likely a spirit guide, and it's not an angel, because angels are just a name for an Anunnaki. But it's more than likely a spirit guide that did that, because obviously whatever you've got to do on this earth, and when I say you, the spirit that's joined with you, whatever you've got to do on this earth, you have to, or they want you to complete it, basically. And that's why people have near-death experiences, because they get sent back because their job hasn't been fulfilled. In other words, the spirit hasn't learned everything that it's supposed to learn from being with you. So if you sneak out early, they kind of you can, from what I understand, you can say, no, I want to go. They allow you to carry on and say, no, I want to die, and move on. But obviously those ones we don't know about. We only know the ones that say, okay, I can move on, but I'm going to go back in the body, even though the body's now messed up for whatever reason, been a car accident or something. Art has wrote, thank God you're here to fake. Please kick the Jesus dude. He must have wrote more then, because I'm guessing Fake's done his job. I'm going to have to start paying Fake for this. He does a fantastic job of a moderator. He's absolutely fantastic. He even, I've got to give him credit, he even has this little copy and paste thing where people say something and he just pastes it. It's like he's just ready. You'd make a great, forgive me, but you'd make a great personal assistant to someone. You're fantastic. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Roberts wrote to Baz, why do you think there is an edge and where it is? That's a good question. I didn't ask why he thought there was an edge. I just assumed he thought there was an edge. Yeah, that's a good question. Someone's wrote, you're waffling, mate, which is, I'm guessing, me. Do you know what? The funny thing is, I do listen to myself back. I'm just going to have a swig of a drink. Forgive me, everybody. I do listen to myself back, and I kind of like listening to myself because I don't waffle, in my opinion. So 00101110 has wrote 00101110, which is obviously, I'm guessing, possibly a binary code, but I don't know if there's enough digits there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it doesn't appear to be a binary code message. So I think it's 8 for binary. Thanos wrote I believe in God. Can I ask, and again, no disrespect whatsoever, a couple of questions. One is, are you aware of the tablets that predate the Bible that talk about the Anunnaki in doing their things that's in the Bible, but with the names properly in the ancient tablets, such as Enki and Enlil, as opposed to Lord and Yahweh and the 1,000 other names that the Bible ended up translating? I'm just interested to know if you are aware of that. If you're not, that's fine, no problem. But I like to know whether people have made their own choice and said, yes, I'm fully aware of the Anunnaki and heard about them, but I still think that the Bible, even though it's a copy of the original tablets, is talking about so I'm interested to know. So I'm not being funny, I'm just really interested to know. Freezers wrote, I don't believe in a God. Interested to know why you don't. Same sort of question, really. Is it because you've done research, or you just feel that there's no benefit to a God doing all the things that the Bible said in the way that the Bible said it? Fakers wrote, "No, thank me, for I am the chat savior." You are.
WhatsApp. Someone has sent you a WhatsApp.
Bazers wrote, "Jesus' body was his temple according to the Bible." Yeah. See, the problem I have with the Jesus is
WhatsApp.
sorry about
Someone
this.
has sent you
Is when it comes to Jesus, that doesn't actually copy from anything from Sumerian or Akkadian or anyone else. That is pretty much as it is talking about Jesus. So I kind of have to go with that to a certain degree, because there's nothing else to go back to when it talks about the Bible. It talks about Jesus. The funny little signal sign that says, I think he was the same person that says I was waffling, wrote, "But they did, so I don't see why that's relevant." Don't know what that's referring to now. Sorry, it's probably because I waffled on. I didn't get to your point straight away. Forgive me. Debbie's wrote, "Ancient Babylon epics are amazing." Yes, they are. I've again, I was reading some stuff today about Babylon and all sorts of bits and pieces about Marduk. His wife was a scribe. And there's a little bit of new information here for you guys, because I don't think I've mentioned this before. His wife was actually a scribe, a very important one. Well, first of all, she wasn't. She was a bit of corn. How sad's that? She was a bit of corn in descriptions and images of her, and then at some point or other, she became a scribe for the pantheon or the gods, and then she married Marduk, and then she carried on for a little bit being the scribe. So in other words, writing stuff down. She had a gold. Wait for it. She had a gold. Brand new information for you today, ladies and gentlemen. She had a gold. What do they call it? Not stylus, but the implement that they. I can't remember the name of it now. The implement that they used to push into the clay. Anyway, she had a gold one of them, which makes sense really, because if some people, peasants, shall we say, humans, were using reed sticks that they'd cut and shape and then use to push down, but she had a gold one. Anyway, later on in life, after marrying, she had a son with our friend Marduk, and the son then took over the writing duties for Marduk. In other words, putting him out there as the be-all and end-all, probably. And she ended up being just in charge of the other pantheon's information. So she was basically Lewis Lane of the reporter of Samaria. So there you go. Sorry, I waffled on. I only mentioned that because obviously he was the god or king of Babylon, Marduk. Thanos has wrote to Frieza, because you can't get in contact with him, or what? That's asking why. Yeah, so we'll find out in a sec. Hopefully, what Frieza says. Bazers wrote to Robert Johnson's, because there was a Big Bang, so the universe must be finite. Interesting. Art has wrote, "Oh, how fake the fake person." I have to be careful reading your name out, because I think there's probably blokes will probably find it funny, but I don't know what women will. Forgive me if I'm reading into that too much, but all right. Basically, his name's fake gynecologist, and oh, there's someone at the door. Sorry, let me just go to the door. I think it might be someone. We've got someone's parcel. Sorry, one sec, everybody. Hi. Yeah, I did knock. No, I did. That's all right. No worries. I knocked yesterday, but no one answered. Thank you. Bye bye. Sorry about that, everybody. There you go. Tour of the house. Just finding my seat. Right, where was we? Yeah, fake gynecologist. Yeah, I'm not a gynecologist, but I'll take a look. Okay, that was a bad joke. Viking said, "Thank God they have gone." I'm guessing that's someone that Fake had blocked, and therefore I have not read out the messages, which means they probably wrote a lot then. Fake wrote to Art, "I was giving him a little chance." Yeah, I'll be interested to know what he wrote then for you guys to all be saying, "Thank God he's gone." Freezers wrote to Thanos, "I believe in a greater power and being because our existence is proof in itself." Interesting. When you say our existence, are you referring to sort of humans as our existence or life in general? I'd be interested to know. Inbo has wrote Stargate. I do like it when people ask sort of full questions because, forgive me, but you could be talking about TV series, you could be talking about Project Stargate, or you could be talking about the supposed Stargate in Iraq. So I don't want to pick one of those. I mean, Stargate TV series and movie I could talk about all day long because I was connected with Stargate, shall we say? The TV series, not the movie or the Project Stargate. Roberts wrote to Baz, "Yes, that Big Bang Theory don't really works. It doesn't if there's nothing prior to that, but obviously if it's like CERN, then it would technically work because obviously CERN's doing it now. Otherwise, they wouldn't have spent billions and billions on it." Freezers wrote, "However, where's the proof God is the name that the greater being and power?" I'm guessing you're saying, where's the proof God is the name of that greater being and power? Well, if you're talking about God as you wrote with capitals, the Anunnaki were the gods, Elohim, which was the race name. So when you read the Bible and you read Elohim, you're really reading the race. It's like us humans. If we went to another planet, they would write us down as humans, and if we was more advanced than them and we made them worship us, then we would be called gods, or Elohim would be translated into gods. Baz has wrote to Robert, "All scientists can't be wrong." In other words, I guess Baz is saying that there was a Big Bang. Well, in fact, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which predate our science by thousands of years, talks about a Big Bang, but it's a thought that from nothingness suddenly came in, which is interesting because how would they even know anything about a Big Bang back then? They couldn't measure the universe expanding back then, thousands of years ago. So there has to be some slight truth to that Emerald Tablets of Thoth for them to know about the expanding universe. I mean, back then, to even know a thing, such as a universe, as far as people back there, or even lesser time than them, people believed we were the center of the universe. So to have a tablet or translations of tablets that literally say the spirits came from the Big Bang at that moment, light energy beings and dark energy beings, and all thought that thought that created the Big Bang created time, and it starts talking about the time. Fascinating. So I've actually done advert time on my Patreon page. I've now put 2 videos up, segment 1 and segment 2, of everything you need to know about spirits. And I go into a hell of a lot of detail, and it's not me filming a screen, it's properly edited and voiced over and everything else. So if you're interested in knowing everything you need to know, and I mean, I'm going in deep into everything from reincarnation and I'm marrying it all up, and I'm showing the evidence of where these things are. So I'm not just waffling on. I'm pointing to where the information comes from. So quite fascinating videos if anyone's interested. Edwin has, and that's on Our True History on Patreon. Okay, advert end. Edwin has wrote, can particles assist creation of life if they come from a mini black hole created in a collider? Okay, let me get my head around this. Can particles assist creation of life? My opinion is obviously we're carbon based, but we're basically chemicals, really. Everything is a chemical. Grass is a chemical. Rocks are chemicals. And it's not me making this up. Go look it up. Space is also a chemical. So when you've got chemicals, and we know what happens with chemical reactions with things. So particles, when you say particles, if they're not, I don't think they could probably create life, but they could probably create the basically like a universe that would then have chemicals in that universe. I can't imagine non-chemicals creating life. I might be wrong, and obviously different types of life. I mean, look at light energy beings. They're not carbon based. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible is the answer to your question. The other day my phone overheated, which is why it's starting to get hot now. So that's why sometimes the phone just dies, and I'm not rude, it cuts off because of that. Baz has wrote, civilization started in Iraq. There was a flood and the evidence under the Gulf. Technically a tsunami. And the reason for that, and I haven't done a video, but I love the logic of this, because not only does Zachariah Sitchin say that it was an ice shelf that comes off of Antarctica, but flooding, if you flood something, after a while the water subsides and that object, building, whatever is still there. It's as simple as that. Maybe dirty, maybe wet, but a skyscraper or a tower or a pyramid or a city wouldn't get mud and silt and everything literally cover over it in the way that it did in the ancient times, which you would get with a tsunami that's as high as the sky. And we know that from sad videos of what we see in Indonesia and other places with tsunamis. So yeah, so when you say flood, I would go along with the tsunami, because otherwise the buildings that they had to rebuild over, that they talk about rebuilding over, they wouldn't have had to rebuild over. They would have just waited for the flood to subside. Nikki's wrote Jesus. Not sure if that's a question or anything, so I can't really answer that. Aurora's wrote, how are you today? I have a bit of a blocked nose, but thank you for asking. I hope you are fine as well. And in fact, I can't. Okay, everybody, I hope you're all okay today. I hope you're all fine. But thank you for asking, Aurora. Basters wrote, are you aware about the Germans trying to figure out this esoteric stuff in World War II? Yes, I am. Yeah, they had a special unit. I can't remember the name of it. Similar to SSOs. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Sorry, but yeah, they had a special unit that looked into it. Basically, that's where I think the Hellboy story partly comes from. From memory, that was based off of a true story from the Nazis. Pinkers wrote, regarding the Nazca lines, it was the Star People histories you mentioned, and I thought they were. I'm just trying to read Conne, Conne. Regarding the Nazca, I thought it was the Star People's histories you mentioned. No, when Nazca line, I've never. I've never said who I thought it was. I mean, I do say that the weapons of terror that the Anunnaki had, one of them would, as described, would slice off the top of a mountain, which is interesting because obviously the Nazca has that. But I can't see them using that there because there's no evidence of, I mean, unless someone's hiding it, there's no evidence of a civilization being there. So they were using those weapons to stop Marduk and his armies. So if there's no evidence of them there, then to use that weapon that will slice off the top of a mountain in Nazca wouldn't make sense to me. So, but I don't really know. I don't think it's the Star People. There's different descriptions of Star People. Some natives call the little greys Star People, and then you've got people that call themselves, or people that say about the star seeds. So, I don't think it would have been little greys either. I can't imagine, but obviously they may have had a reason to do it. Fakers wrote, I can swear it in Australian. Okay. Nikki's wrote, you need to tell me I'm getting mad. Sings people coming through to me and how and why. You need to tell me, I'm guessing, am I getting mad? I'm guessing signs, people coming through to me instead of sings. And why? I'm guessing you're saying you're sort of feeling a bit clairvoyanty, where you're getting spirits coming through. And no, I wouldn't say you're mad, because ask Fake. He's already had quite severe experiences with paranormal. So, if you was classed as mad, then he'd have to be classed as mad, and all clairvoyants. And I've spoke to really decent clairvoyants and mediums. They'd all have to be mad. So no, I think you just may be more in tune. And like I say, I think there was a program once where they showed whether or not the pineal gland was enlarged. They was going to try and get a medium to be put underneath and scan, but I don't think they've ever done that. But that'd be really interesting to know whether it was enlarged, because certain parts of your brain, such as the hippocampus, can change your whole life, basically. I mean, look at Rain Man. Supposedly, one particular part of his brain is way larger than other parts, and you can apparently train your brain to do these things. But his brain, when I say Rain Man, it's from the real guy from based off the movie. The movie's based off of him, and he can remember 98% of everything that he's ever seen or done, which is phenomenal and scary at the same time. So he could recall, everything. Whereas, if I said to you, what did you have for dinner last week, you probably would struggle. He will be able to remember that, So there's muscles in your brain, which is technically your brain's supposedly a muscle, from what I've heard doctors say, which you can train and it can grow. So there's a possibility you may have a slightly larger something that may be allowing you to see, such as the pineal gland. Fakers wrote the swear word in Australian. How the hell did you do that? That's very clever. It's upside down. Vicky Plasma has wrote, have you learnt to translate Sumerian? No. I crossed my mind for 5 minutes, and then when it turns out that it takes six years to learn, and there's now computers that will actually do it, I thought, no, I'll pass on that. I've learnt a bit of it, hieroglyphics, Egyptian, but I'm not going to have the time to sit there and go through the Sumerian. But I have read loads of different people's translations, loads and loads of different people's translations. Some, going back to 250,000 years ago, 250 years ago, when the first translations started coming out. So I've read all of them, but the benefit of someone like Sitchin is obviously more modern terminology beats older terminology. So in other words, 250 years ago, when they were talking about flying craft or whatever, and chariots and stuff, they just thought it meant chariots. They didn't think it meant a flying craft, because 250 years ago, there was no such thing as a flying craft. So it's quite amazing, the translation differences, but yet the same. It's just the odd word here and there makes so much more difference. Edwin's wrote, can particles... I covered that one. Nikki's wrote, why do people talk to me and I can tell people the truth? Why do people talk to me and I can tell people the truth? Not sure what you mean by you tell them the truth. Do you mean you tell them their truths, or do you mean you start talking about your own truths? I'm sorry, I'm not sure on that one. Craig has wrote, is there going to be a World War III? No. 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 The way I see it, based on everything that I've ever heard, and I've heard a lot, I don't just do Anunnaki and aliens and spirits. I look into the conspiracies as well. Things, some of them stupid, like the Queen being a reptilian. Throw that one out, because obviously a shapeshifter, if she accidentally slips back into form while she's standing on a balcony, no, not going to happen. She just literally cuts ribbons all day long. So the benefit of her being a shapeshifter, no. So anyway, but other conspiracies have got merit to them, and before we even get to the possibility of another world war, the population will be reduced a different way. So you could call it World War III, or you could call it a culling, shall we say. Jane has wrote to Faker, hi, I hope you're okay. Nikki's wrote, your dad. Why do people talk to me and I can tell the truth? Your dad. Sorry, I was just trying to add that to the one before where I couldn't understand what you meant. Sorry, I still not quite get it. It's probably not you, it's probably me. Foxy has wrote, thank you for answering my question. Appreciate you giving your time. No, if you sit there and write, I will, until the battery dies or the phone dies of overheat, I will try and answer your questions. So thank you for even asking them. Liam's wrote, is that angels are like 10 foot tall? Well, the Anunnaki, I know I keep going back to this, but the Anunnaki 8 to 12 foot tall. So 10 foot is within that range. The word angel was translated, and technically the Hebrew word for angel is messenger. So it's just basically an Anunnaki. That's all it was. So if you read, for example, the Book of Enoch, an angel is walking around having a chat with Enoch. Archangel comes down, picks him up. Archangel being a pilot or sort of a leader or team leader or a manager or whatever. Archangel picks him up, flies him off. You'll see archangels flying around all the time, and they're the ones flying the craft. Other angels are just Anunnaki with them. So it really is that simple. And Aigi translates to watchers or watching. It's really hard for me to remember what it was, because I have to go back and try and find where that translation was from, because I did all this out of my own. I didn't think I'd have to write stuff down, because I didn't think anyone would ever listen to me. It was just for my own knowledge. So yes, so angels, e.g. Anunnaki, can be 10 foot tall, which is why they could breed with human women. And yes, the Bible does talk about angels coming in, and I've listened to pastors and priests and everything trying to explain how an angel can suddenly manifest itself into a human form and then have relationships with women, sit down at their table, which I think it does say in the Bible, have a cup of tea with them. Instead of just saying, okay, instead of the manifesting and all this baloney, why don't we just say it's an Anunnaki? Let's be honest, which one sounds more right? An Anunnaki, physically there, can physically have, and is 10 foot tall, or something that we don't have now. We don't have angels now. No one's seen an angel. Yeah, it was all in the Bible all the time. Archangel this, Gabriel did that, Fred did this. Why haven't we got it now? And that's because the Anunnaki are not here anymore. So it makes sense. It really does, but I still struggle with people. Nikki's wrote, your dad is watching you. He probably is. Thank you. Bless you. I'm guessing you've got an ability to see this, but yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I believe he probably is. Hopefully he's popping in to see Mum as well. But appreciate that. Thank you. Just scrolling down. Nikki's wrote, we don't live by the Bible. Okay. Based Israel soldiers during World War One and Two said they saw angels. No. The problem. Okay, so this is the problem we have. If I showed you a light being, a physically light being that it looks like a humanoid but glowing, you will say it's a angel. Why will you say it's an angel? Even though it hasn't got wings, you'll say it's an angel. Why will you say it's an angel? Same reason why I say, oh, thank God for that. It is drummed into us. So what they saw is spirits. But, of course, especially if you're religious, you're not going to say spirits, you're going to say angel. You will. It's your go-to thing. It's like when I, see something that I don't like, I go, oh, Jesus Christ. Why did I say Jesus? I don't mean it. And it's just these drummed into us things. So they saw spirits, but they didn't see angels, because otherwise we would be seeing angels now. No one sees angels the way that they did back then, sitting down having a cup of tea. They're not around. But yeah, going back to the Aegi, it means watchers, watching, which also is the fallen angels, which makes a lot more sense than anything else, really, in my opinion. Power Force, as wrote Bible, is man-made. Yes, it is. It's a translation off of tablets, but yeah, it is man-made. Bolt, Boltaco, as wrote, can you elaborate on Mars being an away point to Earth regards the Anunnaki? I know Sitchin me. Well done for knowing Sitchin. In I'm guessing his books, etc. So the Mars was an away point. So basically, the planet Nibiru comes round every 3,600 years, give or take, and goes in between Mars and Jupiter. So if they already had all the gold on Mars, when by the time Nibiru comes around, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to Nibiru instead of from Earth all the way there. And their craft requires water. Now they may now have anti-gravity, but back then they powered their craft with water, which sounds really stupid. But if you watch my videos, I show that mainstream now, or scientists have now superheated water as hot as the sun. And if you could imagine what, trains, we used to run trains on water, steam. So imagine having water as hot as the sun. And so that's how they did it. So it still took, they weren't anti-gravity. In other words, it still took a period of time for them to take the gold backwards and forwards. Now, Nibiru, from what all accounts, lasts about 15 days in its perigee. And that's not a lot of time before it starts going away again. So if they had to take all the gold from here quickly, and bearing in mind they can't do it quickly because they're still in a propulsion system craft, they would have had to have filled all their crafts, whizzed over there as quick as possible so that they don't have to keep travelling backwards and forwards. So the logical thing would be to have an away station that every time the planet Nibiru comes near, they can go backwards and forwards and drop off as much gold as they possibly can before it starts going back, because the last thing they want to do is keep going through the hammer bracelet, which that was what they called the asteroid belt. So that's not a good thing. They totally tried to avoid that thereafter by staying on their planet as it goes round without having to get hit in their craft by the the asteroids. CN is right. I believe the Bible was based off astrology when it comes down to it, really. Technically, we've got the tablets in the British Museum as well as other museums of what the Bible was copying. The original tablets do mention astrology, which is obvious because they come from another planet. If they didn't come from another planet, they probably wouldn't talk about the planet so much as they did. Which really winds me up, because there's people out there that say that they don't, the debunkers that will say, well, there's no, there's in the ancient text, there's no mention of Nibiru, this, that, and the other. But even Right, let's just imagine there's no mention of Nibiru, even though there's different translations of it, such as Heaven's Portal and things like that. But let's forget that people translated these things, and the people that's debunking it can't read Sumerian, so all they're doing is going by other people's translations where the word doesn't mean Nibiru. Bearing in mind the words in Sumerian can mean 6 different things, each word, so the people that did translate it a long time ago may not have got it 100% right. But anyway, let's assume I've lost my train of thought now. Let's assume that they're not talking about Nibiru. Why are all the ancient tablets, or not all, why are a lot of the ancient tablets always talking about the stars, the planets, the constellations? They'd even talk about the constellation. Now, you could say, well, it's because agriculture, etc., etc. You could say that the constellations. You've also got the computer that was found in the Greek ship. You probably know of it, the one where they recreated it on a CAD design on a computer, and it basically means you wind it up or use a handle, and it will tell you where all the planets are gonna be at a certain point. Now, why would anyone need that? We don't need it. I don't need it. Unless you're waiting for your home planet to come back round. So it kind of makes sense why they wrote a lot about the stars. In all cultures, Rome, Greece, Egypt. And that's obviously because, wait for it, the Anunnaki were there. So in other words, wherever the Anunnaki were, they were talking about the stars, etc. Anywhere else that the Anunnaki weren't, there's no star charts or anything. Just seems logical, I guess. Nikki's wrote, I can tell you have lost your mum and dad together. Did you? No, my mum's, hopefully. I haven't checked on her tonight, but my dad, a while back, 2006, I think it was. But my mum, hopefully, she's still in the front room. You're making me worried now. I'm going to have to go and check on. I've got a camera because she's obviously getting on a bit. I've got a camera in her front room. Don't worry, she knows, she's happy with it. And me and my sister can check on her. If she doesn't answer her phone, then we don't spy on her. But if she doesn't answer her phone, then we can at least check on her, make sure she fell over or something. But it's only in the front room, so if she's not in the front room, we do panic a little bit if she's not answered her phone. But it's the best we can do. Bald Taco's wrote, can you elaborate on Mars being the waypoint reference in the Lost Book of Enki? Who was abandoned there? So when you say who was abandoned there, Alalula was abandoned there after losing a wrestling match with Enki. And then Anzu was also there. And in fact, the tablets that I was reading the translations of that predate Sitchin was talking about Anzu as well, and being that's the beautiful part was this particular translator literally said that Anzu was that carving of, I don't know if you've seen it. You've got an Anunnaki standing beside almost like a griffin type carving of a griffin on 2 legs, reared up with wings and a sort of eagle head type thing. And that's a full carving of, so in other words, there's one Anunnaki and this creature. And the translator actually said that was Anzu, which is spot on to Sakurai Sitchin. So I will have to get that translator's name. I've got all the information stored, so I will go and do a video on it and point all that out. But Susie Q has joined. Hey class, Susie says, and everyone's saying hi to Susie. Nikki's wrote a car. Not sure what it's referring to. Winnie's wrote Avon's calling. Oh, that's, my God, am I that far behind? Shit. Excuse my language. That was when the lady come to get her parcel that I'd stole from her front door. No, I didn't. Fakers wrote, I have gloves. Oh, right, that's going back to my joke about, because I sat down and then I said, I'll take a look. Well, at least you're prepared, Fake. I'll give you that. Roddy Clark has wrote, when are the Anunnaki coming back? And if they do, what would be the purpose be? So you've kind of answered your own question there. There's no purpose for them to come back to us, but they are already dealing with the military. I believe the whistleblower that said he was in a room with one of the Anunnaki who was very, very tall in the military. So they would be dealing with the military. There's no reason why they wouldn't. They obviously got technology. We've got technology. They created us. So yeah, I think. But as regards them coming back, there's no benefit in them coming back whatsoever. They lived here for 450,000 years. They were with humans for 300 odd thousand years. So I think they've probably had enough. David has wrote, Iraq has some great tech, yes. Or had, you're right. Yeah, had being the appropriate word. Funny how the military just went in there around the same time that, yeah. Winnie's wrote, we have a new date for the end is nigh. Okay, I'll be interested to know the new date, unless it's tomorrow, in which case that's not good news. Power Forces wrote, definitely not. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Sorry, it's just the way I do these things. It's Nikki's wrote, please need to answer me. Did your mum and dad pass away together in a car? No, my dad died unfortunately of he was born above a pub in Scotland. Winnie probably knows it. He was born above a pub, and unfortunately, all his life he was drinking, and the drink caused cirrhosis of his liver. Yeah, so unfortunately. But in fairness to him, obviously, I guess it is addictive. I don't drink myself, so I wouldn't know. But he grew up with that culture, and back in the day, my mum grew up with smoking as the thing to do. Now we know it's stupid, but back then it was kind of cool and everything. So I kind of forgive them for that, unfortunately. Fakers wrote, if you think about it, planets are made of rocks and minerals. Would they be considered like land? Well, the Anunnaki believe the planets were alive. Modern scientists, and I mean modern scientists, we're talking within the last 3 months, have now started saying that the possibility of a planet being alive. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth say the planet's Earth is alive, and the orb-like beings go in to the Earth. So, yeah, I mean, just because we believe they're rock doesn't mean they're not alive. I mean, look at us; we're just mostly water, but yet we're still conscious and sentient. Power Forces wrote something just not right about the Big Bang. I kind of agree with you, unless it was another race that actually created it. Samuel Lux has wrote ego sum. I hope that's not me. I try and keep my ego in check, even though I am the world's best. So, damn, I've done it again. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Yes, you did. Stop it. Sorry, no, it's not. I'm not egotistical. Well, I say I'm not. My ex-wife probably would say I am, and everyone that knows me probably would, but no, it's not me. I'm not that type of person this week. DJ has wrote, do you believe in ghosts? Yes, I do. Categorically, have no doubt whatsoever in them. They are light beings that join with us, and then they leave us, and then we become part of that. And yeah, they are definitely here, and they've been here since. If you go by the tablets of Thoth, they've been here since the start of the universe, which is really impressive to think that tablets thousands of years old. Even if you go by the translations, which are, probably 1,000 or 1,500 years old. That's before we even had comprehension of all sorts of things. Time, before Newton and his gravity, and everything that we can possibly think of. The Emerald Tablets. I know it's written almost in code, but you can decipher it. Literally talks about it. So someone knew something back then, in my opinion. Nikki's wrote, in the car, his dad was there with someone else in the car with him. No, he was in hospital, unfortunately, in the end. Just scrolling down. Vendors wrote, I see what Fake done there. Vendors wrote, kindly describe paranormal. So, anything that is not normal is paranormal. That's the definition of it by dictionaries. Obviously, people believe the paranormal more to be sort of spirits, ghosts, demons, dare I say, angels, that kind of paranormal. But paranormal, covers Bigfoot, covers UFOs and things like that. Pink has wrote, thanks. I think I may have my star people and then Anunnaki mixed up. No problem at all. The problem is the names as well, because when you read ancient Sumerian stuff, I try and keep to the same names, but Ninurta had about 5 different names. And I just stick with Ninurta because I will confuse everyone if I start splatting out and I can't even remember the other names. So I just go with Ninurta. So yeah, it can get confusing on who's what and stuff. Nikki's wrote, pure dirty water flowing really fast. Not sure on that one. Sorry, I've missed something there. Aurora's wrote, my boyfriend wants to know your opinion on the Lyrian alien race. I was wondering when someone was going to come up with that. So, right. Okay, there's people like our friend Billy Carson. You may have seen him on Ancient Aliens, or you may know of him on these sort of TikTok things. Well-dressed guy, of colour. I don't know how to say it without getting told off these days. And very presentable, etc. The problem is, on one of his videos, he said the Lyrians and the Syrians had a fight billions of years ago on Earth. And I wrote on there saying, okay, no problem at all, just show me the proof. Anything, ancient writing, part of a craft, anything. Of course, there is none. So the problem with the Lyrians is, in my opinion, there's very little to go on. I mean, we've got, more evidence of the Pleiadians. We've got obviously Greys and so on. And even the Dracos, we've got a lot more evidence of than the Lyrians. I'm not saying the Lyrians don't exist, but I'm just saying when people start throwing around the word Lyrians billions of years ago and no one was here to witness it, I struggle with that. So I know it's not the answer you want, but I struggle with it. Sorry, I know it's. Fakers wrote, your turn your screen brightness down to help with the heat. Oh, interesting. Okay, let me do that. Well done. Because my screen is burning my fingers. Okay, I've done that. Right, where's everyone gone? It's all dark now. Sorry, I'm still here. Thank you for that. That's cool. Didn't think of that. As I burnt my fingers. See, that's why my ego is not as good as Fake's. Fake knows everything. Fakers wrote to Winnie, I'm going to report you to the principal, because Winnie's sounds like she's trying to take Fake's job of being a moderator. I think we can have room for 2. Fakers wrote, Sir, Winnie's being mean. Oh, Winnie would never be mean unless she doesn't want to make tea, in which case Enlightenment has wrote Antarctic could be the lands that previous civilizations iced over after the Earth tilted cycle. That's an interesting. Go to top of the class. I've never heard anyone say that. That's a really interesting thing, because obviously, when people say about previous civilizations, I say there's no evidence whatsoever of them. But we know the Antarctica has green grass and, supposedly swampland way back when it wasn't covered over in ice. So I guess the answer is you could say there could have been a civilization there. I mean, we've got, if you go by the military, there's a crashed or a spacecraft that's sort of huge, and we're saying very huge, miles and miles wide, or long. I don't know the description of it, but that's supposedly in Antarctica. So if that's in Antarctica, was it actually a craft, or was it, as you say, was it a civilization that built their own ecosystem in Hello Clark in that area? So it's a really good point you make there. I never thought of that. Techno has wrote, "What's up?" No, all good here. We're all good, I think. Fake and Winnie are now chatting. Will you two just go and get a room? Just scrolling down. Winnie's wrote, is there going to be food shortages anytime soon? Good question. Don't like answering this, but you've seen the videos, haven't you? It's, to me, it's the divide and conquer scenario that they try and pull. There's a whole richplanet.net's done a video on it, but there was this going back, I don't know how old, maybe 2030s, in Russia. They wrote a whole paper, when I say paper, a lot of papers, on how to control masses, how to control people, etc., etc. And everything that the Americans do is literally in that paper that the Russians. You can translate I think he's done some of it on his show, richplanet.net. But yeah, he divide and conquer, and everything that's coming up now, where they're being offered in different countries money to destroy their cattle, money to destroy crops, all these kind of different things. And there's fire taking out crops just to happen and things like that. You just got to start wondering, are the elites, because they've got their bunkers, they're good for 20, 30 years at least in these underground cities. So it's not impossible for us to think that when they get going to depopulate, then food will be one of their options. Akhenaten, it looks like, forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, it will be war between three countries. I don't think so. I mean, the three countries that know that have this ability to fight each other all know of each other's abilities about UFOs and the craft that they've already back engineered, and the space fleet, and the Russians are not daft. They know about the energy weapon that was used on 9/11. So they're not gonna provoke a war. I think the Russians are just doing whatever they can to prepare themselves for what's coming, but it ain't gonna be a war. WD has wrote, that's just my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong on either account, really, to be fair. But WD's wrote, the Quran states the angel Gabriel's wings spanned the whole horizon in his craft. And you know what the funny thing is? The actual I don't know if I told anyone this, but if you see the symbol of a disc and wings coming off of it, which is the Anunnaki symbol, that's actually referring to their home planet. So that's actually the symbol of their home planet. Like we've got insignias on our military, for NASA, for example, has got I think it's a planet, is it, with the red thing going around it. So that's Nibiru, the winged with a disc. So when you've got the Quran talking about things with wings, you're really talking about more than likely either a craft or an Anunnaki, because to differentiate themselves from humans, the Anunnaki back in the Sumerian times made sure they had wings, which would show that they were Anunnaki compared to the humans. So when you're looking at a carving back then, you'll know that it was an Anunnaki compared to a human. Enlightenment wrote, yes, the Torah mentions Roch, which was first translated in antiquity, craft, boat, now aircraft. Yeah, and also one more thing that I found out today, thank you for saying that, was the Anunnaki craft, one of them was shaped like a crescent moon. Now, whether or not the translator, this is going back, pre Zechariah Sitchin translations, I will have to check exactly how old it was, but yeah, he said that it was it described a craft basically as a disc shaped, but like a crescent moon shape, which is interesting. I'd not heard that before. Nikki's wrote, why can I say their names and special things only they know and get told to say them to them? Oh, right, okay. So in that case, yeah, you've got some abilities like a clairvoyant, because that's exactly how a clairvoyant or spiritualist would receive the images and then feel compelled to tell them the person it. So yeah, I would, if you're interested more, you need to really talk to or research into clairvoyance and see how, because a lot of people start off like yourself. They don't just suddenly say, you know what, I'm going to be a clairvoyant with no skills. They have these gifts already. There's some people that try and do it, and some possibly successfully succeed. I've heard a couple of cases that have, but generally they have a gift already. So yeah, I would say you've already got a gift. It's worth looking into, but obviously the more you open it up, the harder it is for you to close down. In other words, there'll be times that I've heard so many clairvoyants that say they have to literally shut the spirits up at night while they're trying to sleep, or while they're trying to have ladies and gentlemen time with their partner, and they, literally the spirits go, could you tell thingy, blah, 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 like, go away, leave me alone. So be careful what you end up thinking. Samuels wrote Ego Sum Lumen. That's obviously something I don't know. Fakers wrote, got to go, back, be back. So thank you very much, Fake, for joining in. WDs wrote, teacher, what do you know on the real life mermaids, also known as, I'm terrible at pronunciations, Mamweta? Well, depends on who you listen to, really. The ones that we see on the internet are fake. They're fake, for sure. There's no gills. The camera shots. I mean, I've been doing filming long, not as long as I've been researching, but I've been doing filming in all sorts of ways and special effects and stuff like that. But yeah, the ones that we see washed up on a beach where the camera's not going in close, you don't see the person's face, and all this kind of stuff. They're fake. But there are some people, whistleblowers, such as Emery Smith, who I'm really on the fence on. I teeter on him, I really do. But if you go by him, he seems to have actually operated on a merman. And he seems to think that there's a race of them underneath the ocean. Now, you could go and say, well, okay, maybe there is, because Poseidon, who was Enki, in Poseidon's period, he created various different creatures, just as he did in Sumerian times, such as the Cyclops. And yes, Sumerian Cyclops come before the Greek Cyclops, and we know that because we've got the cylinder seal which is a Sumerian cylinder seal in the Morgan Library. So we know that there was anyway. So yeah, Poseidon supposedly created, along with other things, merman or mermaids, which, he was here for 400 odd thousand years. He had the ability to manipulate any DNA he wanted. So we've got griffins, we've got minotaurs, we've got centaurs, we've got all sorts of weird and wonderful hybrid type creatures. Why not, bearing in mind Enki / Poseidon was god of water, why not a merman? The Greeks go into a bit more detail on why he created the merman, etc. But he was here for a long time, and I can't say he didn't create them. So there's a possibility, basically. Again, depends who you listen to, but there's a possibility they were created at one point or another. Whether or not they're still here, there was some footage on the History Channel a few years back where there's people in a submarine and this woman mermaid swam past really fast and then touched the glass and then swam off. I don't know if you guys saw it. I watched that a billion times backwards and forwards, and I called fake on it. Of course, the fact that the people that were being interviewed looked like they were actors, and I mean, I've interviewed people and filmed people being interviewed and all kinds of long story, but basically the difference is they were acting, so that was fake in my opinion. Akhenaten says, I'll save you some time thinking too much. Thank you. Enlightenment wrote to WD, the word El translated into God of. Each titled angel had an L at the end of their name. I was going to go into one on that, but I'll leave that as that. Well done. Paranormal wrote, bend time into a warp bubble. I can't do that, but spirits can go backwards and forwards in time. Everything's happening now, and in fact, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth talks about it as a circle. Everything is a circle. In other words, it goes round and round. Not the universe, but time will go round and round. You can get off of it, apparently, according to Emerald Tablets of Thoth. There's lines. It starts, as I say, kind of cryptic, but they talk about certain lines that you can cross. So maybe there is a way that we can do this. Just scrolling down. Forces that drive us was wrote, yes. Water, WORTER, water, the ships run out. I'm guessing you meant water, normal water. Yes, water, the ships run off. It explains this in the Lost Book of Enki. Yes, it does. Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, really, because they stop on Mars and fill up their craft with water, in other words, to carry on coming here, in other words, fuel, which makes sense. And they convert the pump that they use as a siphon when they get here to mine for the gold, to start with. KVH has wrote, wait, you still believe this debunked garbage? I think anyone that's listening to you, and there's 58 people at the moment, 57 of them will probably say, I've debunked the debunkers. And that's my ego talking. But I guess this KVH ain't still here because we know those people don't want to. And that person will go away and believe that they were right, and they'll carry on spouting the debunking side of it. But anyone that's watched my videos knows that I do a thorough job on debunking the actual people that debunk it, like the guy that debunked the crystal skulls. There's only one person that's ever debunked the crystal skulls, and he worked for the Rockefellers. And he was debunked by his peers for something else. So, yeah, I do my research. Basters wrote, also, is the asteroid belt a destroyed planet from ancient war? No. According to the Umm Elish, which is in the British Museum, the asteroid belt was part of a planet called Tiamat, which was smashed into by Nibiru's moons. and Tiamat ended up breaking off and forming Earth, Moon, and asteroid belt, according to that tablet. Sean has wrote, the problem is not that we don't know, but proving it becomes more and more difficult. It does when the governments and military go into Iraq and smash up the artifacts that we need to know and to prove. So when people say to me, well, where's the particular artifact that Sitchin says XYZ, it could be now smashed. So yeah, it's sad. Forces that drive us wrote to base. The moon was not suitable as a way station for the Anunnaki. That's correct there, because there was no atmosphere, or very little atmosphere, as they said it in the tablets. But of course, people that don't believe in atmosphere and space, because there's some people that don't. But yeah, Enlightenment wrote, Gibble was the original name. Greeks changed it to Gabriel. Gibble, Gibri, God of. Well, the translation of Gibble also means, if you're correct on that, also means a particular material that they used for various different things throughout their life, such as putting into the capstone on the Great Pyramid. Gibble was used. I think, if I remember correctly, Gibble was an admixture of two different other materials. Nikki's wrote, let me in the box, please. Not sure what that means. Do you mean join the live, or sort of, I don't know what that means, sorry. Chicken Canada's wrote, eating cornflakes and listening. Oh, bless you. You've probably finished now, because I waffled on. Nikki's wrote, your mum is okay. Thank you, good. I will double check after. Got me worried now. Nikki's wrote, who was in the car with your dad? My dad was in a hospice before he died, so he wasn't in a car. He got banned from driving because he was drink driving before. So yeah, he wasn't driving for a long period, unfortunately. Just scrolling down. Enlightenments wrote, Michael Mika, god of Uriel. Yuri, god of I'm terrible pronunciations. Lots of words that I can't pronounce. So sorry about that. Nikki's wrote, going bald. Not sure what that's referring to, but my dad, you could class it as going bald. He still had some hair. Winnie's wrote, 27th of Never Hopefully. Oh, well done. That was to do with when the end of Nye is coming. Isaacs wrote, how's the movie coming along? Sadly, we've only got 8 funders or backers, and that's probably because the majority of the rewards that people get are based in England. So in other words, come along to the wrap party, come along to the premiere, be an extra in the film, would all be UK based, and of course that alienates really, because no one's going to want to come over just for that from another country. So we've kind of alienated a lot of people because we don't have other things to give them. However, there are other things that's arisen from this, that we have options. So I'll leave it at that at the moment until the Kickstarter finishes, and then we'll have a look at the other options that we've got now. Nikki's wrote, he is law at you. But thank you, sorry, Isaac, for asking. That's very nice of you. Nikki's wrote, he is law at you now. As he is law at you. Not sure what law means, sorry. Susie's wrote, I wonder how large the population of Nibiru was at the time they were here. Must have been large. I'm just going to have a quick swig of a drink. Well, supposedly, according to the people that would label Nibiru as the dark star, the blue star, this wormwood, and all those other names. It's at least 4 times the size of Earth. Now, Sitchin gives the impression that it's even bigger than that. So if the planet's, at least four times the size of Earth, there's room for a lot of population, unless the planet is majority water, in which case, and less volcanoes. So it's hard to know geographically how many people would be sustained on there, but we do know from their text that there was a top half and a bottom half where they had wars. So, and, again, to them, their population would live a long time, but relative to them, they didn't. So, in other words, to us, they lived a long time, but to them, they would only live about 100 years of their time. So, they still come and go. I don't know how many's on their planet. You'd think it would be large, wouldn't you? But it's hard to know. Susie's wrote, considering how advanced they were, or are they not mutually exclusive, do we think? I wouldn't have said they were mutually exclusive, simply because here on Earth, this is not me saying this is everyone else, wars drive technology in every shape and form, supposedly. Now, they did have their wars. We know that because they write about that there was a very, it started with sticks. This is what they wrote. It started with sticks, then stones. I'm paraphrasing now. I can't remember exactly what. And then other weapons, and then massive terror weapons that would literally wipe out, like nukes. So that war must have been going a long time. So they probably got technically advanced very quickly based on what they needed to do to destroy the enemy, as opposed to how many people they had as troops, I'm guessing. So I don't know if it is exclusive. It's just because of the war. If they didn't have wars, then I would have probably said yes, mass population equals more people creating stuff. But because of the wars, I think they probably each side focused on technology more than they would, like we did during the wars, and still doing now, but they don't share the technology with us. Arthur wrote, I just saw the video of the UFO above Medellin in Colombia. It looked like it was made of rock stone. I've not seen that one. That's interesting. Not seen that one. I will now try and make sure I see that one. Lewis has wrote, hello everybody, tell us a ghost story, boss. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, you have to give me a second because I wasn't. Okay. You put me on the spot now. Give me a second. I'm trying to think of one that's not just a boring one. Forgive me, everybody. Give me a sec. I will think of one that's. Sorry, I'm just going through stories. I mean, this one comes to mind, but it's not really a story. But it is. No, it's not really a story. I was going to say about, there was a person that their phone rang in the middle of the night, and it was 0000000 on the phone. It was a mobile phone, and they picked it up. No one was there, and they put it down and went back to bed. Next morning, they found out that their loved one, I can't remember which loved one, aunt or someone like that, died. And they said, oh, she died at such and such a time. He went back to his phone and saw the phone number was dialed at exactly the same moment that she died. So that's quite puts hairs on the back of your neck. That's just one of many of those stories. A lot of people get 00000. So if you ever see a 00000 on your phone, it might be a loved one trying to get through. You'll have to. I'm worried about all the people you see. Trying to think of a. You got me on that. I mean, I've read thousands and I've heard thousands of stories, and now you put me on the spot, and I'm trying to think of one. How embarrassing. Um, Forgive me. I'll have to. I just. um, I'll have to think of it. I might try and think of it as I go. Forgive me, because I'm sitting here thinking all these people waiting. Sorry, you've got me on that one. Just threw me right off there. But excellent question, though. Top of the class one. I should have been able to pull one straight out of the hat, though. But Brent has wrote, do you think timeline interception works? Exists? Yes, I do. Somehow. I'm not sure whether it's to do with CERN or whether it's to do with souls crossing over, or whether or not it's to do with people humans that have the ability to time travel that are knocking us off of our course because they've already travelled, and therefore if they've travelled, then they're not in our existence anymore, and therefore we're now being knocked off. I don't know which one of those it is, if any, but I do think there is a possibility that timelines can be intercepted. Nikki's wrote, what does he mean about a car truck? I don't know. He had a few cars in his life. I don't think he's ever had a truck. No, I don't know. Sorry. Nikki's wrote, is he ex-service? Not my dad. I think he drove a tank way back in, when he was younger, 17, 18 or something like that, but not for very long. Yeah, sorry. Maybe you're picking someone else up. Giz wrote, what's your opinion on the inner Earth? Chasms, huge caves, not necessarily an Earth around another Earth. This is from, not me just making it up, this is from ancient stories from, the Tibetans with their Shambhala, Agatha and the inner Earth and everything else, and whistleblowers and whatever else. So my conclusion from everything is there's deep chasms, there's places that you could sort of live in. They probably have life in there in terms of plants and various different things, because water is actually seeping up from the center of the earth. And if you don't believe me, go watch my Patreon videos where I point out scientists are actually now saying where's the water coming from below, which is interesting. And I've said, if you watched any of my videos early on, you'll see that I talk about the earth core being ice instead of just a molten core. But yeah, so I think there's life to the point of creatures, but I don't think there's sentient life. I know I've heard the stories, you've all heard the stories of reptilians in the inner earth, or an advanced race, and that's why we've got the UFOs, etc., etc. But no, I don't think there is. I think people may have. I've heard stories of races of people, humans, that migrated underground, but regarding a race that's, indigenous to the underground, no. When he's put the kettle on finally, my God, I have to even hint nowadays. Jesus, what's going on? And when I say Jesus, I don't mean Jesus. It's drummed into me. When he's wrote 8:51, so I'm 30 minutes behind. Sorry about this, people. Nikki's wrote, I see a truck, military. Oh, I mean, he drove a tank apparently when he was younger, but not for long. And then he went on to a milk float. Nicky's wrote 64. What, when he passed? Probably around that age, yeah. Yeah, probably not far off that, to be fair. I'd need to ask my mum, but yeah, probably not far off that one. Winnie's wrote, one of the crop circles looked like the cycles of the moon. Are you referring to the Roswell stone that I was talking about? I'm guessing. Phoenix has joined. Hello, everyone. Hi, dear brother. Hi, Phoenix. How are you? For those of you who don't know, Phoenix has got a heart of gold. You can just tell by the way she writes things. She's sort of ethereal. That's the way I see Phoenix when she writes. Just scrolling down. Nikki's wrote, "Why me?" Do you know, I've heard stories of, well, I've not stories, I've heard clairvoyants before they eventually became a proper clairvoyant would say, "Why me? I'm nothing special. Why me? Why me?" So yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to why people get these. You could call it a gift. I mean, if it annoys you, then it's not a gift. But Godfather of Freight has wrote, "Is there any definitive proof of giants?" There was definitive proof in the Smithsonian. Then they kept, so basically the Smithsonian pretty much run by the Rockefellers, which don't want us to know anything. They were destroying the giant skeletons that people were donating to them, plus selling to them. And the stories go that the sailors would take the skeletons and take them out to sea on behalf of the Smithsonian and drop them in the ocean so no one would ever find them again. And then there was a court case back in 1902 where the court basically asked, "Why are you destroying these giant skeletons?" And the Smithsonian said, "Because we want to keep the narrative of what we've got now." So that was definitive proof. Then you've got giants that have been found, and you can look back at old papers. 2016 was the last newspaper article I read. I think a good guy in Texas, possibly. It was a rancher, and he'd found a 8-foot skeleton on his ranch. And at the very end of the article, he says, "I'm going to donate this to Smithsonian." And as soon as I read that, my heart just died. I was like, well, that's never going to be seen again. So, yes, there was an 8-foot skeleton there, and that's not the only 8-foot skeleton that other people have found. So if you go back, forget the more modern hoaxes on the internet, but if you go back to actually look, and people have gone back to look at actual newspaper articles in libraries where they can pull them up on these machines and zoom in on the newspapers articles, and they have done that, and they've gone back and seen 12-foot, 13-foot skeletons and whatnot. But of course, the skeletons, when you've got the clout of, for example, the Rockefellers, if they want those skeletons to disappear, they'll either bribe you or you'll disappear, or the Smithsonian will buy them. And then sadly, the Rockefellers ended up trying to bribe the way into the Egyptian Museum to build one, and then the British Museum is known as the Rockefeller Museum. So when you realise that they've infiltrated all the museums, the answer to your question about are we going to get proof is no, not in terms of skeletons. Obviously, there's other stories and giant swords and things like that that's been found around. But in terms of the smoking gun skeleton, no, you're not going to find that until someone does find one and actually, quickly, without, goes live on the internet. That's the only real way that would find it. Jennifer has wrote, "How interesting would it be to find out that the moon is really an ET ship?" Crazy thought, I know. Yeah, people have said that for a long, long time, but the problem is we've got an ancient tablet in the British Museum, predates anything, that literally says the moon was created from the planet called Tiamat being smashed into. If we didn't have that, because that Who would have sat there and wrote that out and thought, you know what, let's make up a planet, let's make up 4 moons, let's make up Earth, let's make up the hammer bracelet, which they wouldn't have seen. They wouldn't have seen. There's no way thousands of years ago they would have known about the asteroid belt, and yet they write about it, which means they obviously have some knowledge. So I kind of have to go along with that. Now I know the moon obviously has a irregular, the fact that one side's facing to us. But nowadays, if you carry on doing research, you'll find that that's not actually uncommon now. I've been doing more and more research into moons that do that. In fact, what is it? Jupiter. Is it Jupiter? Has something like 100 moons or something silly. And some of those are just always facing on. So it's not uncommon. Obviously, there's small, very small moons and stuff like that. So it's not uncommon, believe it or not. And obviously, we do see UFOs flying in and out, and that's because they're in there mining for helium-3 as well as whatever else they're mining for. But yeah, I don't think it's a space station, because who in their right mind, before humans were around, and we have to admit that the moon was around before the humans were around. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have had the tides, and we probably wouldn't have had evolution. But even if it came here when humans were first here, why make it look like a moon? That means they would have had to hollowed it out and then put rockets on it, fly it over here. For what benefit? To start life on Earth, and yet they didn't.
Sent you a WhatsApp.
So let's just imagine it's a spaceship. They flew it over here, put it in a perfect position so that life can start on Earth. Or you could say, well, okay, life was already here on Earth, but what benefit would it be for them to position that there? Why not just come and land on bloody Earth? If they've got the technology to build a craft and disguise it as a moon or hollow out a moon, why not just come to Earth and land on here? Why sit up there and hollow it out and just sit there? For us, for what benefit? I don't get it. If you say, well, okay, they put it there to help life start, why didn't they just drag it? If they've got the ability to hollow it out and then put a propulsion system on it to bring it here, then they could have put a propulsion system on it and dragged it without even needing to hollow it out to make a spaceship. So I don't see the benefit in it for them being a spaceship. Phoenix just wrote, Smithsonian holds skeletons destroyed most of the giant Elohim bones. Yep, Phoenix knows her stuff. Phoenix wrote, Sin Nana Yurik, god of the moon, was his wife Nigel. Yeah, I was reading about those names this morning. I think the Yurik sounds a bit like Eric. I think that's how the person translated it more like, or how I perceived it to be read. But yeah, you obviously know your stuff, Phoenix, with your names, which is why I stick with the simple names. Nikki's wrote, still see a truck. Is that your dad? No, I don't think he's ever had a truck. Nikki's wrote, on water, not mine, but maybe someone else that's listening in has had. Maybe you might be picking up someone else. Faye Lofts is right. I heard hags, which are the stones on a beach with holes in them, are attached to their belts to get. So I'm just trying to read on, to get to the bottom of the sea. So in other words, weights to get to the bottom of the sea. I'm not sure what you're referring to, whether you're talking about mermaids or giants or Anunnaki or. The thing is, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the first, it's really sad, but the first, I know, load of crap, don't I? The first people that, military-wise, that had divers put what they call a diving bell over their head, and they would send them down to the bottom of the ocean, because obviously it contained its own air bubble. which you could breathe in. So it's like, think Pirates of the Caribbean when they was underneath the ship, the not ship, the little rowboat, and you get an air pocket. So anyway, these divers would go down, and when they reached the bottom, they would be pulled back up because they thought, oh, the diver's down there, he's done whatever he needed to collect the things. They pull them up, and their head had imploded because of the pressure inside the diving bell. And they thought back then there was a monster attacking them. They didn't understand pressure. So that another person would go down there with a weapon to kill it, and they'd come back up with no head. Quite sad. Yeah, sorry. Just scrolling down. Phoenix wrote, remember Pan Am Airlines? My best friend's dad was a pilot. If Lockerbie plane. When you say if, you probably means your dad, my best friend's dad was pilot of Lockerbie plane, do you mean? So that was a Lockerbie, Winnie will probably know that well. Lockerbie was a plane crash that crashed into a place called Lockerbie in Scotland, if I remember correctly. And it wasn't till fairly recently that supposedly the Iraq people said, okay, we know who done it, we'll give compensation out, this, that and the other. But for the longest time, obviously it was classed as a terrorist attack, which was obviously sad. Sad for anyone, for lots of reasons. But I can't help but think the Iraq, I think it was Iraq or Iran, something like that. The people that the country that had that did that because they wanted someone released or something was happening. Someone was about, I can't remember the exact thing, but I think it was more like a peace offering as a for their own benefit as opposed to a proper peace offering. Just scrolling down to questions. Globe Tarders wrote, we need to get a flat earth debate arranged. Oh, please tell me you're still here. Please tell me you're still listening. Oh, please. The reason why I say that is because someone posted on one of my videos and said something to do with flat earth, or I can't remember if it was my video or their video, but really important this. Listen, everybody. I then replied saying, look, no one ever answers any of my questions regarding this. So I think I was on someone else's flat earth channel. And then someone else, not the main person that I just replied to or sent a message to, saying no one else, because they put a post up talking about flat earth, and then I replied saying, look, no one answers my questions about my, anything that I write. And then someone else, totally different stranger, comes in and says, right, what do you want to know then? So I thought, right, here we go. So I wrote, why on, when a rocket goes up, do you always equal the amount of distance no matter where it is? And they haven't replied. I even then posted up, I don't know, 7 days later or something on that. I'm still waiting. They can't answer it. It is amazing how they just freeze. I'm surprised that post is still up. I do go back and check to see whether it's still there. But yeah, they can't answer it. So there's not really a debate, really. If you can't answer why that happens, why in Australia, which is nearer to the edge, you can see the same equal distance as you would in America, which is not near the edge, it's a game over. I've won, without sounding egotistical, but it's just logic. Blancmange just wrote, Tiamat gets schooled by Bahamut. Why does that name ring a bell? I can't remember where that name comes from, but it does ring a bell, so I'll bow to your superiority on that one. Just scrolling down. Some people chatting to each other. So, Basters wrote, when will Nibiru come back round? My estimate is 200 to 300 years. Sitchin's estimate is sort of 900 years. So I guess, I mean, I'm not, obviously Sitchin, I bow to his knowledge for sure, but um, even he admitted that their planet is coming around quicker. So, yeah, I mean, I might be wrong. He might be right. But so, yeah, somewhere in between that is probably right. So we're all right for now. But the beautiful thing is the the elites and everything have already got their bunkers already set, so they're going to be fine when it comes round. I'm I'm just scrolling down. BS has wrote, which Anunnaki god said, "There shall be no other god before me." Um, don't recall reading that. If anyone was going to say anything close to that, it would be Enlil. Um, because I mean, technically, you could say when they was giving out the ranks, and he was a rank of 50, you could say that he said that around that point. That would make sense. But as the way you wrote it, I don't recall reading that. If you let me know where that comes from, I'd be interested to know. Faye Lofts is right. I've worked as an extra, and main job is a hairdresser. I've done the special effects makeup course at the Iva. I'm guessing Pinewood. So I'm look for the film work to build my portfolio hair makeup. I also have HNC in design, e.g. set and props. Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. If you could email me, go to Anunnaki.com. Sorry, Anunnakifilm.com. Go to the contact part where it says about props and hair makeup and that. And just email. We're putting a folder together, a portfolio of people that we can use. I've been at Pinewood for a few years back in the day. Just scrolling down. Oh, sorry, and you carried on. And costume, I tried to message but couldn't. I'm based in Southeast. I can offer my services for your film. The reason why I'm not working in the industry is because I've worked 21 years in the high street salon. I was just trying to read the next bit. I couldn't see the next bit. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, it's basically if you got pen and paper, or try and remember. It's our true history. You can email me at ourtruehistory@hotmail.com. So it's the name in the background there, Our True History, no spaces. ourtruehistory@hotmail.com. Just send me a message saying hi. This is what we do or what you do, and I'll put it into the folder. So far, no one's offered for hair and makeup, etc. So that'd be cool. I have obviously worked with hair and makeup people, but the idea I wanted to try and do was yeah, I don't know, make this something special for people that actually want to be be part of this. Anyway, sorry. Arts wrote, I've seen a few ghosts. The craziest one is too long to write, though, here. Feel free to send me. I've got a bit on my website where I put people's stories up. So if you want to do an audio of it, and I'll put it up, no problem at all. I'll be interested to hear. Roddy Clark has wrote, I can't help but think Roddy Piper. Sorry, that's just my age showing there. When Nibiru comes back around near Mars, what do you think would happen if we tried to take a spaceship? I was going to try and I'm just scrolling down to see if there was something else. If we take a spaceship, well, first of all, Nibiru's got big 8 to 12 foot Anunnakis on it. Probably not a great idea. Now, they did supposedly try and nudge Nibiru out of the way using the X-31, I think it is, which is a small Challenger type craft. And they put and I can't remember the name of it. I did do a video on it. They put a particular device on the fleet of these, supposedly. I'm saying supposedly, and they sent them off on this mission to try and nudge Nibiru out of the way using this, I don't know, reverse tractor beam. Shall we say? There is a name for it, and it's a genuine military thing that they have, and so is the I think it's X-31. They're totally classified. You can actually see some footage of it. Some people have actually captured footage of it landing back at space centers, NASA Space Center, etc. And then when the newspapers that was filming that land asked them what was that, they actually go quiet and say classified, and that's it. They don't say anymore. So probably not a good idea to push a planet with Anunnaki on unless they allowed that. But yeah, Based has wrote, have you heard of the Admiral Byrd story where he met Anunnaki in the North Pole? I've never heard him say he's met Anunnaki there. Never heard that. Nazis, yeah. Never heard Anunnaki. No, never heard Anunnaki. Ever. So I don't know where your version is, but chances are it probably wasn't the Anunnaki. It was Nazis, possibly with Aryans or reptilians or another race that the Nazis were working with, but I've never heard Anunnaki, and I can't see it being an Anunnaki. It just doesn't make sense for them to do that. User 514 wrote, what's your thoughts on crypto? I'm guessing you're referring cryptocurrency, are you? I've not got enough knowledge if it is to do with that, so I can't. I was one of the first people to try and go for the old Bitcoin and sell stuff using Bitcoin, but nothing sold, so I didn't make any money on it, because back then there was all these news reports saying, is it safe, is it legal? Everyone's using it for nefarious reasons because it can't be traced and stuff. But Alien War has wrote, trust Bible history. Not sure if you're sort of joking there or whether you're actually serious. Because obviously if you trust the Bible history and you realise the Bible's got conflicting stories in it, then you end up going around in a circle, because it doesn't, it's like error message, can't compute, how can I trust it if 1 minute it says this and the next minute it says that? So yeah. Goo Rockets wrote, hi everyone, how's things? We're all good. I think lowering the screen brightness has made my battery last longer. Goo Rockets wrote, I've got something to show you. Not okay. Everyone, stop that. He or she's on about something sensible. Don't be disgusting. You're not. I'm happy to look at whatever it is, as long as it's PG rated. Lasers wrote, hi Laser, nice of you to join. Goo Rockets wrote, I'll be 10 minutes. Goose wrote, one of the skulls you were talking about. Oh, cool. Okay, interesting to hear that. Lewis has wrote, we are going back to the moon. Do you think they'll show actual pictures of what's up? No. The closest we had was when China went up, and they actually allowed some of the pictures to come when they first landed their machine, the probe on the moon, and there was a bit of an outroar in the behind the scenes of them doing that, and a lot of the pictures got taken off of the internet. I don't know if you was aware of that. So yeah, they got told off. So yeah, no, I don't think we'll ever find real pictures of what's going on there. Donna's wrote, what do you know about the excavated centaur where the Anunnaki was responsible for creating them? What do you know about the excavated centaur? Did I hear something about that the other day? Was there something that someone said that they found half man, half horse? I can't remember. I might have flicked past something similar. Yeah, Enki would have. I mean, he's been here for so long, and he had the ability to create mixed things. And one of the, I mean, even before he created humans, he was messing around because it says so when he took Nimna or Ninharsag and showed her these creatures and actually said to her, "What do you think of these?" And she goes, "Oh, the back half is a blah blah blah, and the front half's a different creature." So he seriously was messing around. So there's probably more creatures that came and went that no one ever even saw, or so yeah. I do think he made a centaur. I do. Just if you're that way inclined, your minds, and you haven't got the morality of what you're doing, because bearing in mind, he was a god, classed as a god, or at least to us when we eventually came along. He's on an alien planet, and he's tasked with making sure gold's found. And if he's tinkering with DNA to try and find a creature that could help in the best possible way, we're doing it now with super soldiers. So instead of mining for gold, the military are creating super soldiers. Trust me, they are. From all sorts of things, from giants' DNA, like for e.g. the Kandahar giant. So they're doing super soldiers, and so for their benefit. Now, why wouldn't Enki do whatever he could? Oh well, there's a nice horse. What's that horse? Oh, maybe a half man, half horse. That's a great idea. Then they could travel a lot further and carry. So yeah, he probably did, and he probably even created, dare I say, because I know I say that a dragon originally, the description is a comet with a tail, which it is, as you read the tablets, and it is. There's no denying that. That's a nice tail with a front head was classed as a dragon. But down the line, did he actually create a creature, even a wyvern, which is similar to a dragon but slightly different? Did he create them? I could say possibly. I mean, now they had a creature on their own planet called a phoenix, which we all know of here. And supposedly they had a phoenix here on Earth. There's a whole backstory to the phoenix, and it's quite important actually, but that's for another night. So yes, the answer is Senator. Yes. Chicken Canada's wrote paranormal exclamation mark. Chicks wrote, "What have I missed? I was making video about Illuminati magic. I will look forward to watching your video about Illuminati." I try and avoid the Illuminati and the Masons because obviously, you don't want to upset the wrong people too quickly. But no, I look forward to seeing your video. Nikki's wrote, "Is that where the water is coming from?" So I think that's now. I think he was now talking to someone else regarding that. Chicken Cannons, yes, I feel the same way. I put videos up about flat Earth problem. So you sort of point out things and no one has answered. Yeah, they don't, do they? They're quite happy to ram why is an ant falling off why is an ant fall off a ball, or look at the levels of this and all that, instead of just getting on a plane or a boat and going to the edge and saying, "There we are, I've done it." It's not like it's out of space. People can sail there. Just book yourself a holiday, a month off. People's got ships. There's. I think I did a video or live chat or something where I looked into how many boats there are, private domesticated boats, millions, and absolute millions of boats, which I didn't realise there was that many on out there. But yeah, there's millions of boats. Obviously, count out the smaller ones, but still, there's still millions of boats that could quite easily reach the edge and come back. Not one person's done that. They moan about the expedition to Antarctic, you can't go there. Head towards the back of Australia or Scotland. Go up from Scotland. Go straight up. But they won't do that. They'll just keep pointing to videos and stuff. Chickers wrote, like Black Magic, Alistair Crowley, devil's statues in churches, etc. What do you think? I I will bow to your knowledge on this one because when it comes to sort of dark forces and Satan and things like that, I try and avoid it because when I did look into it, it kind of brings you back round to sort of kids getting hurt. And when I say kids, you know what I'm saying. So I kind of stopped looking into it because I don't like that. I don't like sleeping thinking about that because that's horrible. So I kind of avoid that. So you probably have found a lot of stuff out, I'm sure. Goo Rockets wrote, any chance you will let me on to show you something? Uh, yeah. Let me just get to the end of these messages and then I'll quickly do it. Because I need to see your message to be able to click OK or something. If I'm so far back, I don't get to see it. Um, just reading messages. Guru, in my hand, I have to return it Friday. Salvatore's right. Hello there. Guru's right. A skull found deeper than the Jurassic period. Wow. Salvatore's right. How many years are the Anunnaki advanced from humans? Anunnaki's graves. I think 300 years, believe it or not. I don't think they were that far than we are now. So yeah, they weren't, anti-gravity or anything like that. So I think they're just a few hundred years ahead of us now. Obviously, back then it was amazing because obviously we'd be amazing to back then. But Chicken Canada, what do you think about the black magic? Is it real? Making a video. Well, the ancients believed it was real. I mean, they had necromancy where they did actually genuinely believe that you could put a skull there and you could hear voices through the skull and all this kind of stuff. They had spells. They had technically black magic. So yeah, I mean they believed it. So much so they would even write it down. So you kind of if it must have been a more common thing back then than we are doing now. So I guess why not? Lasers wrote chimeras. Yeah, that's a total mixture, isn't it? Andy's wrote, no mate, you can't get to Antarctica. That's what I was saying. I was saying people point to Antarctica because of the flat Earth, but it's not because of the flat Earth. It's because they found an alien craft there under the ice. But when talking about the flat Earth, everyone points to Antarctica, and I say, no. What about behind Australia or behind or at the top of Scotland? Keep going, a couple of thousand miles, and you're there. But no one talks about that. They'll say you're not allowed there, or there's mist, or there's a dome, or there's some crap story that they keep coming up with that they change to fit their agenda. And then they'll point me back to Antarctica, and I say, no, don't go there. I want to go behind Australia. And they can't answer it, and then they block me and stuff like that. So yeah, Paul is right. Planes fly over Antarctica too. Certain planes do, military ones, obviously. And there is a certain flight path that sort of domesticated flights are allowed to go. With civilians on, obviously, to drop them off if they're working in research labs, etc. But there is a very strict airspace there. So yeah. Artist wrote to Chick, the concept of black magic is Christian. There are many different kinds of magic that gave, been, and still are practiced today. Goo, if you're still around, do you want to quickly? I'm at the bottom now, so if you want to join in, if you're there, Goo's going to show us something. I'm trying to invite Goo. Sorry, I'm still new to all this inviting business and accepting. Goo's going to show us a skull, which I'm looking forward to seeing. But it says invite Goo, and I'm pressing the screen, but nothing's actually happening. Oh, here we go. I pressed a different thing. Right, okay. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find Goo now to invite. Has Goo gone? Maybe Goo's gone. Maybe Goo's gone. I couldn't see him. I just went down to co-host. Doesn't say it. Okay, well, it's nearly 10, so Paul has wrote, what could be beyond Australia, I wonder? Ocean and then back round to the next country that's there. There is no extra land.
Email message. There is an email message.
Sorry, there's no extra. I've researched exactly what Admiral Byrd said about Antarctica, etc. And he wasn't talking about suddenly an extra plot of land there. He was talking about things that he wasn't expecting to see in that land and further than West Scott, the Antarctic went. Yeah, Goo looks like Goo's gone. I can't seem to invite him because it's greyed out. So, okay, well, I'm now on 20% of my battery. It's nearly 10 o'clock. Thank you for saying hi. Sorry, I'm just about to shoot now. I've been doing it for a couple of hours, but I will put this one on YouTube. It was a good one, and I didn't talk too much about Illuminatis or bad people, so no one should get upset. All right. So thank you, everybody, and I will talk to you all again very, very soon. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Paula. Good night. Thank you for the hearts and everything that everyone's done. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Take care, guys. You too. Bye. Chicks, right? Love you. Thank you. So, thank you very much. Right, everyone, go to bed now, or wake up, whatever you're doing, wherever you are. Right. Okay. Good night. Bye, everybody. Thanks. Right, Google, what have I said? I told you to get ready for night. You're coming with me to the bedroom, Google.